Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday the 29th of January 2023, and as is always the case with these sessions, we never really know exactly what we're going to be talking about. So if you have an interest in blockchain, cryptocurrency, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, and the other three-letter acronym really, do come along and join us. The sessions are held every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time, and there's a link in the comment section below for details of how you can join. The events are open to novices and experts alike, so if you're just beginning and you're hearing all of these terms that you don't understand, you'd like an explanation, come along and join us. Equally, if you're an expert or you're working on a project that you'd like to share details with, then join in and we'll have a chat about your project. Anyway, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Bruce, good afternoon to you.
Hello, good evening. How are you, sir? It's been a while.
I'm good, thank you. How's life?
Busy and quite interesting, actually. I'm a bit scruffy today. I do apologize to your viewers, but yeah, it's been a manic week. A lot going on, and be great to catch up with you and the rest of the gang.
Yeah.
See what everyone's thoughts are on what's happening. And next week promises to be absolutely explosive, with all of the news that's coming from the US around central bank speeches and the Federal Reserve minutes and all of that malarkey.
Yeah, I pinged a very short TikTok about that earlier because I noticed someone had tweeted about that, and I think you'd shared some details as well. So yeah, as you say, several central bank announcements. So I'll be interested. I think all that's going to happen is it's just going to, I don't think prices are going to change that much. I think they're just going to be a little bit jittery. I'm going to see plenty of volatility around. So a good week for scalping if you're into that.
Right, yeah. I think volatility, 100%. I mean, we're still in this kind of argument between, is this a bull trap or is the bottom in narrative? And I don't know, man, it's quite split. Some very good technical analysts that I trust are saying one thing, and then another group is saying another. And to me, it seems like timescales. I think we could probably go up quite a lot, but eventually go all the way back down again. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what people aren't taking into consideration. But not that I care. I'm not a trader. I'm not trying to trade. I just dollar cost average in for the long term. That's my thesis. And I'm still watching the SEC Ripple case, which is exploding, like in terms of speculation. I've put a couple of articles out on Reddit, which had a lot more traction than I was imagining. And then I took a shot at Gary Gensler on Twitter, and like there's a whole campaign to get him to resign, given the lengthy number of like the behaviors that he's exhibited, the actions that he's taken, collusion with I don't know, just some bad actors. It's just amazing. I think there is a tide of awareness rising against Gary Gensler, and a lot of people are asking him to resign as the chair of the SEC. Whether or not that happens, we don't know, but it might be one of these things.
Yep.
Crazy.
It's bizarre as well how there are so many of the news things coming out which all of a sudden start linking together as well. So as you say, the SEC and what Gary Gensler was saying and all that kind of stuff, then you start linking in with FTX and how it was bizarre that Sam Bankman-Fried was having meetings with the likes of the SEC and with the US government. And it's bizarre as well because he was having meetings with them about completely unrelated things from crypto. It was things like charity donations and weird aid or something.
Correct, until he came out with his manifesto for crypto, right, which was pretty damn controversial, i.e. great for FTX, terrible for everyone else. I think that drew the ire of CZ and a few other powerful individuals in the crypto sector. But yeah, a lot of it wasn't related at all. It was under the banner of humanitarian work and how he was the richest billionaire under 30 to be supporting all of these charitable causes, which in hindsight, it just looks so ridiculous, right? Like hindsight is 2020, but I remember like people at the time kind of speaking about SBF and FTX and like how amazing this guy is. Now, I was shown some, let's say, not very flattering assessments of his business by people that had spoken to him. But on the whole, I would say, yeah, he got away with an awful lot of zero due diligence because of his parents, because of his connections, and because the likes of Gary Gensler were sitting down and speaking to him. There was this whole halo of this guy's an angel, and it's like absolutely not. Turned out to be the opposite. But
I find it fascinating. I speak to a lot of consultants, and independent consultants in a totally different sector, and quite often that they think they're suffering from something that's labelled as imposter syndrome. And I keep telling them it's not a syndrome, it's just entirely normal. Everyone operates at a level that's actually beyond where they think they should be. And then you look at what happened with FTX and the lack of due diligence, the lack of process, the lack of management, the lack of control. And you go, well, there's someone who certainly didn't suffer from any kind of thing, but would have deserved it in many ways.
Should have been under a microscope with a laser focus, but instead was allowed to just run wild.
Yep. It's one of those classic things, as you say, there's that halo effect as well. If you associate yourself with somebody who appears to give you credibility, then people don't start doing the due diligence themselves. Elena, good afternoon or good evening to you.
Hello, Gary. Hey. And hello, Hussein.
We're just getting to talk about crypto events this week. We're saying about how Bitcoin's going up in price bit by bit at the moment, but we're still not sure, is that leading up to a fall or is it a next trend? And everywhere you look, there's different opinions, as you'd expect. Then you've got the continued trial with the SEC and Ripple and what that means for XRP and Gary Gensler. So I can never pronounce his name right from the SEC. So yeah, it's fascinating stuff, really. So how's your world, Elena? Have you been doing any crypto or blockchain related things at all, or are you still just reading? Your course starts next week, doesn't it?
Yeah. My week has been good, and I've spent it expecting the beginning of my very exciting courses. So
who's Elena's doing the University of Nicosia, the intro to digital something. I've forgotten what it is now.
Digital currency.
I watched the previous one of Gary's kind of Sunday roundups, and you spoke really highly of this course, right? I think Gary, have you done it yourself, Gary?
Yeah, I did it. I think about 2 years ago now, and me and a group of others, in fact, who live locally, all did it. So a couple of us actually got together, so you could do like student get-togethers and understand stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I thought it was really good. And even though I think I know a few things about how crypto works and how a wallet works and how keys work, and I've got a reasonable understanding of that, and it goes to a whole new level, and I can recommend it to everybody, definitely. So we just got a couple of other people join us as well, a couple of guests. Is it Hermione and JJ?
Hello.
What brings you along today?
Cryptocurrencies.
Okay. And what about cryptocurrencies?
I want to learn more about them,
Oh, good. What do you know about them so far, then?
Absolutely nothing, mate.
Okay. Well, stick around, listen in. If you've got any questions, then ask away. And if you're genuinely keen to listen, this is a great place to pick up some stuff. And we've been joined we've been joined as well. Is it JJ? That's someone else?
Yeah, that's me.
Sorry, JJ. Okay. Hermione or Hermione? They're staying on mute. Oh, saying hi. That's good. So just for those who've just joined, we were just chatting generally about the crypto market at the moment. For those who are right at the beginning of the journey, sometimes crypto gets impacted by what's going on in what I call the real world. So traditional financial markets, that kind of thing. And there are a number of announcements happening this week, which Hussein was talking about, from various US agencies and that kind of thing. They sometimes have an impact on crypto prices. So we don't know whether they're going to be good or bad or whatever. And anyone who claims that they know in advance what the impact's going to be, don't listen to them.
I've got a little utilitarian question.
Yeah.
As I joined just now, you were speaking about things that have been happening in the crypto world. And I actually was thinking, I made a mental note to myself earlier today. It would be great if I were able to receive a daily or a weekly digest with news, what's happening around the world on the crypto scene. So
Yep.
I want to ask, do you know about any email subscription or social media, Instagram or Twitter or whatever, that specializes exactly in crypto news around the world?
Absolutely. And I'm seeing Hoos nodding as well, so I'm sure he's got some recommendations. The ones I tend to follow are, you've certainly got Guy from Coin Bureau, who does daily updates on YouTube. And I found that his presentation style is very, very dry and very, very mechanical, but the stuff he covers is fantastic. And he goes into a great deal of detail these days. So definitely Coin Bureau on YouTube is one of my favorites. And I follow a couple of Telegram channels as well, which you literally get like one sentence briefing notes on things with links to the actual articles. I'll try and find that now. You got any recommendations, things that you like to subscribe to?
Yeah, I think that you already hit the broadest one for me is Guy from the Coin Bureau. I think he does a fantastic job of giving a very objective outlook on what is very topical and the broader subject area. What I would say is very quickly, you'll find that the cryptos that you're interested in, you need to follow very specific groups on Telegram or individuals on Twitter. And you have to find that out for yourself, depending on what your interests are. You'll find in every community, there are some influencers who seem to have access to information far earlier than other people. So, I watch Bitcoin, I watch XRP, I watch a handful of other cryptos, and I follow very specific individuals on crypto Twitter. That for me is now the area that I spend most of my time in. Telegram is also great as well, though. You just have to find those groups. And hey, if you're on Facebook, you can go to CryptoGB, which gives me an opportunity to shill it. It's the group that I run, and Gary's one of our technical experts as well, who contributes to the group as well.
Yeah, I should have given you a shout out for that. Actually, it's a good point, Hoos. Yeah, anyone who's on Facebook, Hoos runs a fantastic CryptoGB Facebook group, which again, a bit like this group, really open to novices and experts alike, and you get some great contributions in there. Quite often, it's the nice thing as well is that some of the people are just learning, but a few of them seems to be actually putting what they're learning into print. So they're contributing by saying, this is what I've learned about blah blah blah, and that's actually quite a useful way of learning. And sometimes in terms of news of things that are happening, people will drop things in there as well. But yeah, crypto Twitter is a good one. So you find generally, I use a blend of things like Telegram groups, Twitter feeds, and a couple of YouTube channels, and that's it. It's very easy to get overloaded. So I tend to restrict myself. Otherwise, you're just getting snowed down by everything, and then it gets annoying, because if you're in several groups and one of the groups is a bit slower than the rest, then you start thinking, why are they only just talking about this? I knew about that this morning, kind of thing. That's old news. Such is the nature of crypto. So a couple of suggestions for you there, Elena. I was trying to find the Telegram group that I use. I can't find it at the moment, so I'll try and dig it out later on.
Yeah, and let's not forget Discord. Discord seems to be really like where, if you're focused on a particular community, they seem to invest in Discord more than other channels. And I can certainly say, for Noah as well, our Discord community has got over 30,000 people on it now, and we invest heavily in keeping that community well informed and about everything that we're doing. So yeah, different projects will have different channels, but Discord, Telegram, and Twitter, I think, are the main ones. Facebook is an outlier. It's for us who are a little bit older, maybe. But yeah, and I think you just need to find what you're interested in. As Gary says, there's so much noise to signal. I think one of the things that you'll learn quite quickly is like what you want to focus on and what you think is important will guide what you subscribe to.
And certainly, there is so much out there. I will try and find the one that I'm on where I get kind of like a daily summary. But there are some email groups you can join as well. I'll probably pull a list together this week actually and share it with the group, because that's quite a good useful thing of for each of the social media channels, which ones I would recommend to go onto for news and views now. But certainly, if I want a daily update, I go on to Coin Bureau's guy who gives quite a nice summary of things, and he does a deep dive on some things as well. And that's where I've gained quite a lot of respect of him, because I used to watch him.
Hey guys.
Hey JJ. Oh, he's back. Yeah, I found he was quite mechanical in his presentation, but he's definitely improved now. Sorry, JJ, did you want to ask something?
No, that wasn't me actually. That was Jimbo.
Oh, sorry, Jimbo. Hello. Welcome back.
Hello.
Let me guess, Jimbo, you're a beginner as well, and you're learning all about crypto.
Yes.
Excellent. So if you do have any questions, and they are genuine questions, feel free to ask away. You've got an expert or two in the room already. Excellent. Smiley faces and happies. That's really good. Okay, so in terms of anything else, Elena, I think as I say, I'll pull together a list of groups and that kind of thing.
Please do.
That'll be useful. And I'll share it directly, and I'll share it via the group as well. Any other news things going on? Sorry, Elena, did you have anything else beyond that?
Not at the moment, but as soon as I have a question, I'll ask away the way.
And I always love Elena's questions as well, because they're wonderfully different, and in a good way, definitely. So who's anything else? You were talking about Ripple before. There's obviously the SEC stuff that's going on. There's FTX in the news still, with the things developing on that. Celsius, I think, was there some stuff on Celsius going on the other day, one of the exchanges. And then there was the Chapter 11 announcement with Gemini as well, I think, one of the crypto exchanges. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do regularly on CryptoGB is try to we compile a list of what we call white swans now, because if it's a black swan, you don't see it, right? But these are events that could tank the crypto sector. It's been quite popular, as you can imagine, for the last few months. But I think the ones that are gaining some momentum is certainly, we can't discount the digital currency group, which is the parent company of Genesis, which owes Gemini, the Winklevoss brothers, a huge amount of money. And I think they've, as you said, they've got the Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the US, so that money is not going to appear, and what the impact of that would be on the crypto sector, which one would imagine would be huge, but that news seems to have just washed over. It seemed maybe it was priced into the market already. But I'm not sure we've seen the full ramifications of that bankruptcy yet. And maybe they can structure it in a clever way where it doesn't impact the market as much as we would imagine or as we've observed the other bankruptcies to have had that kind of effect. But that's just one of many swans that could impact the sector. And I'm always looking out for new ones. And I think, Gary, as you said, I had a couple of conversations on a few podcasts and some eclectic groups of different people who are not necessarily cryptophiles in any way, shape or form, people who are highly critical of crypto and think it's a scam, and trying to demonstrate that it's just the technology and how it's used it is important and you should be aware of it. But they were very strongly, I think one of the strong arguments was the correlation with M2 money supply, not just the stock market, which I think there's a narrative that when the stock market does well, it's a risk on environment, then Bitcoin does well. And if Bitcoin does well, the whole crypto sector does well. This was more nuanced. It said the M2 USD money supply, which is the amount of money that's actually in circulation, amount of dollars that are liberated to be used in the economy, either by the Federal Reserve or the US Treasury or whoever else that holds these dollars and ultimately releases them into the economy. So these stimulus checks, whenever there's one of these in the US, or that you see a big uptick in the price of crypto and Bitcoin. So they were arguing from that perspective, which I think is pretty true. There is a strong correlation with M2 money supply. So if there's a contraction in M2 money supply from a rise of interest rates, that could have a negative impact. But being even more nuanced than that, it's not a rise in interest rates. We will anticipate a rise in interest rates. It's the rate at which the interest rates are rising. Mm-hmm. So oddly enough, if we have a 0.5% as opposed to 0.75% or increase next week, then the slower rate of the interest rate would be seen positively potentially by the market. So it's those things that we're looking at. I don't know if there are any have I missed any swans, Gary, that you're aware of?
I think they were the main ones this week of what's been coming out. And as you say, the Chapter 11 bankruptcy of Gemini, if I remember it correctly, I was expecting to have more of an impact. And then there's a linkage with DCG and on all this kind of thing. You would expect there to be more of an impact on the crypto prices than there actually were. Well, I really don't know. And for those who don't know, by the way, Hussein was mentioning M2. M2 is how you measure money supply flow, if I remember correctly. So people don't seem to realize when you talk about money, we know about cash. But there's also cash, there's bank account deposits, there's loans, this kind of thing. And economists use different terms like M1, M2, M3. And I used to do a lot of stuff around M3, and I can't remember the difference between them. But it's effectively how fast money is flowing as opposed to what it is, kind of thing. So yeah, it's interesting. I think you've covered the main ones there. Don't think there's anything else major been going on.
So maybe I can talk about something else that has been interesting me a lot lately, which is some of the things I've been creating some videos on as well. And again, it focuses on the SEC versus Ripple case, which we believe by June we should see some kind of initial summary judgment, potentially even in March, right? So I think this is important. I think it's important for the whole crypto sector, but for different reasons. One of the things that I've been exploring is what would happen if the settlement of the SEC versus Ripple case was constrained to clarity for XRP, but not for other crypto assets. And just as a thought experiment, what would happen? Well, in the US, at least, I think it's safe to say that Bitcoin is outside of this kind of situation where it requires regulatory clarity. It's been Gary Gensler himself has said Bitcoin is not a security. So Bitcoin is exempt. Now, if XRP gets regulatory clarity, but settles in a manner where no other cryptocurrency gets that clarity, what would happen? And my contention has been that there's a fiduciary responsibility on some 9 billion of non-crypto assets held, non-Bitcoin assets held in crypto funds that would need to be reallocated. So if you're a CTO or CFO or a CIO, investment officer of an organization that has allocated funds to let's say Ethereum or Cardano, not Bitcoin, of which these funds exist, like Grayscale runs one, and there are many more. According to Bloomberg, there are $9 billion held in non-Bitcoin assets. What would happen to those funds if we saw clarity for XRP and not for anything else. My contention is a portion of that 9 billion. Well, firstly, 9 billion would be liquidated in exactly the same way that exchanges delisted XRP. The legal counsel's advice to these institutions will be, don't touch this. Like they're not legal. We're not clear on their legality. So you would have to liquidate those assets. That would be quite catastrophic for the crypto sector in the US, because suddenly you now have to liquidate all of these funds. Who would benefit? Bitcoin may benefit, because if the institutions wanted to keep their exposure to crypto, they would just reallocate to Bitcoin. XRP could benefit because it has regulatory clarity, and then anything that's not crypto that's regulated could benefit from that capital outflow. So that's something that I've been exploring in detail, because I think it's not being spoken about enough. Given that we could be just a few months away from summary judgment. And I really want to understand what the impact of that 9 billion is. I would also add just one more thing. The total amount of crypto assets held on private treasuries is probably way higher than 9 billion. So 9 billion, I think, is a conservative estimate of non-Bitcoin assets held by crypto funds and treasuries. What are your thoughts?
So there was something else I was going to pick up on. It's something where you're asking about news and that kind of thing. And I can't remember where it's come from. It might be the EU, but it was something published in the last week or so about accounting standards and about how you account for crypto on your books. And it ties in, I think, with Basel III, which is a banking capital adequacy requirement. And I'm sure there was something I read the other day about there's going to be a requirement to hold equivalent assets in fiat if you are reporting holding crypto assets as crypto assets, which is kind of bizarre, because the risk rating they were assigning to crypto was something like, it was a capital adequacy requirement of 1,300% or something, which was bizarre. It was almost saying, if you're saying that you're holding $100 of Ethereum, then you actually have to also hold $1,300 of US dollars in a segregated account type thing. It's quite close. I'll try and dig out where it was, but I think it was something to do with an EU proposal around capital adequacy and financial reporting. So I know that various accounting bodies are looking at how do you account for crypto. So ACCA at the moment, which is one of the accountancy bodies, they're saying, well, at the moment, crypto isn't a financial asset, so you shouldn't be accounting for it. But I think the regulators and some of the governments are thinking otherwise. I suspect that's come about because of the likes of MicroStrategy, who are a big software company, who, through Michael Saylor, who was the CEO, they acquired a load of Bitcoin a while ago, and they said that they were doing that. They were doing that to hedge against things.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
I think JJ's getting a bit excited. I think he needs to go, actually. Is it bedtime?
Yeah.
There we go. Bye-bye. He's got as well. Oh, dear. So it looks like there's a few people just getting a little bit too excited. Sorry. So it's possible that we may see a thing of crypto being reported on balance sheets, but the capital adequacy requirement be quite onerous. That ties back to what Hussein was saying about XRP and Ripple, about if the court case is settled and it just declares XRP as not being a security, so it could be treated as a cryptocurrency or whatever, that could have an interesting impact. So I was just trying to do a bit of tidying up in the background whilst also talking. I think with it being late in the day, some people get a little bit tired. So, but we're joined by Kevin. Hello, Kevin. Kevin's staying quiet as well, or trying to find the unmute. Hey, Kevin, hello. We can see you, we can't hear you.
Hi there, how you doing?
Hey, we're good.
Good. I'm not on video because I shouldn't be here. I'm at work at the moment.
That's okay. We won't tell anybody. That's all right.
That's good.
Kevin, what brings you along today?
I'm a big crypto fan myself. Been in it for quite a while, from back in 2017. So I just like to keep abreast of what everybody's talking about and what everybody's saying.
Cool. So 2017, that's probably the old school before was that when it hit 20,000, 21,000 with Bitcoin and then it collapsed away?
Yeah, just about then. I bought my first Bitcoin in May, the 14th of May was. I remember it because it was such a hassle to actually do it. Not much of a hassle, but it took a little while to get sorted out. And yeah, so I was there, and I think it was roughly about $1,000 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite low in price, but because I didn't know what I was doing, I was learning about it. I didn't go too crazy. So yeah.
I think that was the time that a lot of people got into it, and then soon after it started rocketing up, and it ended up at $21,000. I think that's the point that people got really excited, and loads of people got into it. At which point it dropped back down to $8,000, I think it was, and a lot of people got burned, and a lot of people moved away from it. So, Kevin, it sounds like you timed it about right.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it because my account was just going crazy. And I thought, what is going on here? I just couldn't believe what was going on at the time and trying to get my head around it, So it was a learning curve. Massive.
Yeah. Well, this is the whole thing about this. And that's why I always find it interesting how as crypto prices are going up, two things tend to happen. First of all, everyone gets excited and interested. And then all of a sudden, people are experts again. And you always find there's a correlation between the number of experts going on YouTube saying that they're experts and the price of crypto going up. They all appear out the woodwork. And then when the prices are all going down, they all seem to disappear for some reason. Hussein, I think you've experienced that as well.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Even with the YouTubers themselves, they tell you that their numbers have gone down as well since the bear market has appeared since last year. Everybody, is finding it hard to talk about it, but getting the people to actually view their actual content because no one is not interested. It's only the true hardcore people that are really in it for the long term and still want to know what's going on or what else is actually popping off, as in DeFi and stuff like that. That people, the true people that really want to know about, true freedom of finance, stick with it and see what's going on and see where it's going next.
Yeah. And it's something as well. I mean, I'm not particularly interested in crypto for the, what's happening to the prices. I'm interested in what it means to the underlying technology. So, how things are, how people are adopting it, how it's being used, how people are coming up with things like layer 2 solutions, how people are developing crypto wallets, how they're securing it. So all of that's growing, irrespective of whether the price is going up, down, or sideways. So I find it all fascinating. Kevin, as you come along today, do you have any particular questions or anything that you'd like to ask, or anything you'd like to share?
Share at the moment. I'm not 100% sure because I've only just come in, so I just wanted to hear and see what you was talking about because I'm not sure exactly what the show is all about. Someone sent me a link and said, I'm coming in and have a look. So I haven't had time to even see what your topic was or anything like that.
Yeah. So as Hussein and Elena, who Hussein was a regular, Elena is definitely a regular, they'll both attest. We never really know what we're going to talk about. To be honest, it is totally open. So some weeks, if we do have some novices on who are genuine novices who just want to know some basics, then we can take it really, really basic. And some weeks we've talked about what is a public key and a private key and what's a Bitcoin address. Other weeks we get people who are real deep experts on particular aspects of cybersecurity. So if you want to start talking about ECDSA versus RIPEND 160 protocol or whatever, we've got people who talk like that. on other weeks, we just listen to Elena asking beautifully simple questions that make me go, oh, I'd never thought of that. So it really is totally open. So if you've got basic stuff, ask away. If you've got more complex stuff, if there's something like you've heard of a particular crypto or project that you're interested in, again, we sometimes get people saying that. The reality is, though, that there must be thousands and thousands of crypto projects going on at the moment. And people say to me, oh, have you heard of, Snowflake coin or something like that? And invariably go, no. So yeah, if you do have anything, feel free, or otherwise. We were just chatting about general market stuff, really. As an indication, Bitcoin's been gradually creeping its way back up to $23,500 today. And there's, totally open season into whether that's just going to be a continued trend, or is it that it's actually setting people up to start piling in, and then it's actually a trap and it's all going to collapse. We just don't know. There's various US announcements next week. So things like central bank PMI, which is that the product manufacturing index? I think it is something. It's a major index that gets released in the States every month or every quarter, and it's all to do with productivity in there. And you find that has an impact on things like interest, inflation, and currency values, and sometimes has an impact on cryptocurrency prices as well. So there's lots of announcements coming up this week. So we may see some changes on that. Then we were talking about a little bit about Ripple. There's a court case with the SEC going through trying to determine if XRP is a security, in which case it should have been registered with the SEC, and that means that Ripple could be exposed to a big fine. Or is that going to end up with them having a tap on the shoulder and a token fine in some way, or an out-of-court settlement, which is still what I think might happen, because that then allows the SEC to go away happy, Ripple to not have a case to defend anymore, and no conclusive legislation being put in place, which I think is what possibly the SEC wants. So there you go. That's roughly what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, they're all a bit of a, how can I say, the SEC, I don't know what they do, because they don't seem to do anything except try to arrest small people or influencers and stuff like that. But when it comes to the big frauds, they're nowhere to be seen. And they're still going on about this XRP and what they want to call it. Either way, even if they do get a fine, that's what they want. All they want to do now is get clarification so they can move on. And that's what they want. So I don't think the CEOs of XRP don't really care. They just want them to make a decision so they can move forward. Because they have the money. If they want to fine them, they will. And if they don't, I think either way, it makes no odds to them. All they want is some clarification so they can move forward and do what they want, because they're doing their stuff anyway around the world with all the banking and all the other banks. They're making progress and making movements. So, and that's what I tend to hear from a lot of people and a lot of the news reports that I've looked into as well.
Yeah, and it is a point as well, like people keep putting together the court case as though it's about Ripple and XRP, which it is. But Ripple itself as an organisation is doing many, many other things. And as you say, it's working with various banks and that. But the court case is specifically about the use of XRP. Mm. And I agree that in some ways it'd be nice to have certainty on that. But I get a feeling in a way that the SEC mightn't want certainty, because whilst there's ambiguity, regulators can play you might be operating illegally. And this is where you do find that some financial regulators will try and play hardball and will send companies a cease and desist notice type thing, where they'll say, we believe you may be in breach of something, please stop doing what you're doing. And they kind of put the onus on the person to say, actually, no, it's not illegal. So it's curious how regulators work in that respect. We'll see. But the court case, I think it's slated for, is it March? It's meant to be
summary judgment. Yeah, summary judgment is around March. But it's interesting. A lot of people saying it could be it could take as long as June to get some kind of real clarity on this. And I'm not sure why, if I'm honest with you. Everything that I've heard to date has been summary judgment should be expected in March, but maybe the judge and Annalise Torres can push that back. Having said that, everything's filed now, and it was filed. It's been filed for some time. So by March, she would have had quite a long time. And it's quite fascinating. I've been reading pardon my Latin, I can never get this right, Amici Curiae briefs, the Friends of the Court briefs. Mm-hmm. I've been digging into them in detail because I just want to really understand exactly. It's taken the industry a long time to support Ripple, right? This case has been ongoing since 2020. And for a long time, the rest of the industry, even though to Brad Garlinghouse's credit and to Ripple's credit, they've always said that this case is important to the whole crypto sector in the US. It took until the 11th hour, I think, for the rest of the industry to support Ripple. And I think Coinbase came out strongly with their brief to the court in support of Ripple. And then the Blockchain Association, notably, because the Blockchain Association is kind of part of this Joe Lubin's empire to some extent, I would say. Joe Lubin being a co-founder of Ethereum, right, along with Vitalik Buterin, who have traditionally not got on very well with Ripple and Brad and XRP. They've been competing with them actually until very recently, where I think they've changed their website now to remove any reference to payments processing as cross-border payments as being part of the consensus business case. This is something that was on Twitter quite recently, which I thought was eye-opening. And also the fact that they finally have supported Ripple with their brief suggests to me that they're worried that the judgment or the settlement could only protect XRP, because the biggest loser of this, if it's not XRP and Ripple, is Ethereum. Because if you don't get regulatory clarity for the whole crypto sector, or let's say the larger cap coins in the crypto sector, then Ethereum has the most to lose here because of the amount that's locked up by institutional investors. So they have come to the support of Ripple at the 11th hour. Let's see what happens. This to me, this is like the biggest thing in crypto at the moment. This is why I watch it quite carefully.
And I think the other thing, I was just checking while you were saying about that, in terms of big things that could happen with crypto. And I mentioned before about the EU and capital adequacy, crypto, that kind of thing. I was actually reading it. It's fascinating when you read press reports which say things like, members of the European Parliament Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs supported a bill on Tuesday designed to enforce the latest global bank capital rules. But they never say what the bill's called. So it's like, will you please just put a link in there or something? But ultimately, it's interesting that it's part of the Basel III reforms, and it is around how crypto assets are reported and regulated. And what it's suggesting is that banks will be required to hold a euro of their own capital for every euro they hold in crypto. So that's kind of like a 1-for-1, which is kind of bizarre. Imagine if they implemented that for any other currency, that, you happen to hold US dollars, so you'll also, for every US dollar you've got on your books, you've got to hold a euro. It'd be nonsensical. So
there just seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding about what these assets are. Especially in the EU, there was that kind of profoundly idiotic statement made. I can't remember who it was, in the EU Commission about Bitcoin about 18 months ago. Just really misunderstanding what this is. You can't stop it. And the rules that they're putting in place at the moment, where VASPs, which are regulated entities, virtual asset service providers in the EU, will have to include beneficiary KYC in transfers between each other, which is massively onerous, right?
So it's a thing called the travel rule,
Yeah.
And what it effectively means is that for every single crypto transaction, you're going to have to know the originator of the transaction, as in details of that individual or that organization, and the destination of that transaction. So whereas at the moment in crypto, you do a wallet address to wallet address transfer, if you're a VASP, so a virtual asset service provider, if you're an exchange, if you're an organization that's trading crypto in any way, you'll need to do KYC checking on not just crypto, but the wallet of where the crypto is coming from and where it's going to. So yeah, it is something else. But you look at, so there are regulations being adopted through a thing called MiCA, which is the markets in crypto assets. It's European regulation. It's all to do with anti-money laundering and all this kind of thing. And it all just makes the whole of everything just more and more complicated. So yeah, it's right. Quickly going back to the legislation I was talking about the capital adequacy, just for people's info as well. That might mean if any companies are holding NFTs, then those NFTs would also qualify. So if you've bought Beeple's $69 million NFT of his 5,000 pieces of art or whatever it is, then that in theory means under these new rules, you'd also have to hold 69 million euros of euros simply because you've got this asset. So it's a bit like if you bought the Mona Lisa and the Mona Lisa is valued at $100 million, you've also got to hold $100 million somewhere. Just don't get it.
Never mind that the value fluctuates quite a lot. So like, what's the point? I really don't understand. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding by these legislators.
I think it's the opposite. I think they actually understand it very well indeed. And what they're doing is that they're introducing a overly onerous legislation that simply means most people go, this is too much aggro. It's too much trouble, or it's too expensive. So we shall see. You
give them too much credit, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. The ones that I've spoken to aren't the sharpest tools in the box, but maybe they're being informed by other people.
It could be. I mean, the UK FCA is beefing things up at the moment. Yeah. They've recently brought on a new head of digital assets from New Zealand, a guy who's got a lot of financial services experience, and hopefully he brings in a fresh thing. You'll have seen it. In fact, I know Hussein's seen it. They're currently advertising for a new head of central bank digital currencies. So it'll be interesting to see what level of applications they get for that. And they should be announcing, hopefully next week actually, the UK Bank of England is about to run a central bank digital currency project. And they had a tender out a few weeks ago for a supplier to build a crypto wallet. And the decision on who that supplier should be made on the 31st of this month. So hopefully we'll find out soon after who that is.
Fascinating. Did you see the Digital Pound Foundation's webinar the other day?
I missed it. It was at 4:00 and I missed it by an hour. I think I was operating on CET time for some reason.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was chaired by I think a gentleman from Ripple. And very good. Like they went through the use cases for a digital pound, some of the Orwellian ones and some of the more useful ones. It was very balanced. I thought the people that were on the panel knew what they were talking about, were very well informed. Overall, I was really pleasantly surprised by it. And I find like the UK regulator is far more, the FCA, my interactions with them have been positive.
Yep.
I think they're quite an enlightened regulator, as opposed to the SEC, which frankly are crooks. I can't find a better way of describing them, like utterly corrupt criminals, really. And with Elizabeth Warren coming out, like with what she said about Gary Gensler, it's cringe. It's absolute cringe, but yeah.
Let's not go there, because one day, when the US relaxes its rules on who can visit the country, I might want to go back there again one day. So,
yeah, fair play.
I'm not going to go too far. The other thing with the UK FCA as well, and I agree that they are trying to be helpful. I think they've been massively understaffed, and that's led to problems, is that they are about to have imposed upon them something that's going through Parliament at the moment. It's going through the third reading, the UK Financial Services Markets Act, which includes a provision in it for the FCA to, as a secondary objective, so their prime objectives at the moment are around customer protection, financial integrity of the markets. The third one that they're about to introduce is the objective of being competitive, which is interesting, of having a regulator who is going to be statutorily obliged to provide a regulatory competitive environment. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Did you not know that one?
I didn't.
Okay,
And
yeah.
like, I wonder if that's part of the UK's bid to become part of regulatory arbitrage, which is something that we speak about, right?
So anyone who deals with companies who are doing anything with crypto in the UK at the moment, I would definitely urge, read the upcoming UK Financial Services Markets Act, because there is a lot of stuff in there about crypto. There's an awful lot. And there's also some massive changes going on around organizations as well, about the obligations to do KYC checking on directors, to have beneficial ownership displayed and all this kind of thing. So we're seeing some of this already with other things, like if you own property, having an obligation to actually identify who the owner of property is. So that's just hit the news again. Someone's trying to turn some old news about OneCoin at the moment. So OneCoin was a massive scam run by a few people, including, is it Ignorita Bergerova? No, this lady's known as the Crypto Queen from Bulgaria, I think it was, and she owned a property in London. And it was actually announced back in November 2021 that she owned this property. But someone's now saying that under the new Financial Services Markets Act, they're going to have to officially confirm who the owner is. And if it turns out to be her, they might be able to track her. So the Financial Services Markets Act has got loads of stuff around crypto. Some quite worrying stuff as well about the ability to confiscate it in the event that the police are investigating illegal activities. So the police will be able to confiscate crypto even if they don't arrest you, which is kind of quite bizarre. So that they can potentially do a confiscation order and sequestrate any crypto assets pending an investigation. So the old innocent until proven guilty things kind of going out the window a bit. So,
another reason to self-custody and forget your keys. Under the circumstances. But we've got a couple of minutes, and maybe this isn't the right time, but I just wanted to mention that there's something really interesting around KYC, which I do find to be a little bit too intrusive. But in the US, there seems to be an idea that actually KYC constitutes a warrantless search. And there may be some pushback coming in that direction, because I do feel that KYC, if it's not voluntary, it does feel like intrusion into privacy. But yeah, maybe a topic for future discussion. I'd love to know what the English common law kind of how that would characterize a warrantless search, and if KYC falls into that category, because yeah, I'm worried about KYC. I think it's too onerous.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what the letters stand for, KYC is Know Your Customer. So it's providing evidence of your identity. And there's a lot of stuff going on in this area, in crypto certainly, where exchanges now have to capture details of who you are, your name, address, all this kind of thing. But there's some wider things going on. In the UK, there's provision of a new Digital Identity Act, which is working its way through at the moment, about how you'll be required to provide evidence of your identity to access digital services. So that actually comes down to things like, if you want to access YouTube, you already have to say, I'm over 13, blah, blah, blah. But the legal provision coming through is going to actually change what obligation service providers have to actually check that your identity really is who you claim you are. So that could be fascinating. So yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that in some ways, I completely understand in a free and transparent and open world, why am I worried about people knowing my identity? It's when you start getting governments that are perhaps not so free and open that you start worrying. But yeah, as you say, a conversation for another day. Definitely. So 2 minutes left. Given that our young friends have departed to go to bed, I would guess by now. Does anyone have any closing questions or comments or anything before we finish?
I have only one closing comment. I wanted to say thank you for this highly technical session today, that I was doing my best to stay with the flow and failing all the time, but yeah, it was great.
It shows as well that there is so much in this space, and just as you think you're getting to grips with everything and you understand stuff, and then someone throws in a completely different thing, and it's like, oh, I didn't know about that at all. So, Kevin, anything from yourself before we finish off?
Yes. Sorry, I missed out on the whole thing because I only just received the link or just saw the link, and I sort of jumped in. My only concern was, or major concern is that when I first got into crypto, it was all about self sovereignty and being able to do what you want. And all I'm seeing now over the last year or so is that yes, we need some form of regulation because there are a lot of scams out there and people are getting burnt by them. But nothing seemed to happen to these people, nothing at all. And as you know, with SBF and all the rest of the stuff. But all I'm seeing is that everybody's just jumping all in, and they just feel like they want to just lock it down, so they're able to tax us on every single penny we've got, every single crypto that we've got, and we've lost that ability to have that freedom. I'm finding banks are getting more and more intrusive of what you're doing, telling you what is not right or what is not good. And I don't know, because one of the questions I was going to ask is which banks actually, high street banks, are crypto friendly? Because I'm getting a lot of people saying that I'm not allowed to do this, I'm not allowed to do that, my bank won't allow me to do that anymore. And they're all getting worse and worse, really. Because before it weren't too bad, Barclays allowed it, then they stopped it, and then everybody else is starting to actually stop it, and it's just getting worse. TSB I was with, they were fine with it about a year ago, and then all of a sudden a year ago, no, we're not allowing it anymore.
It's probably, again, we can have another chat about this next week maybe, but at the moment what I'm seeing is that there are no banks that are crypto friendly. It's just trying to find the banks that aren't crypto unfriendly, and I think you've mentioned several of them who have changed their posture and used to be okay, which is why I think people are tending to use things like Revolut and PayPal as gateways, kind of thing, into the crypto world. Well, Kevin, really, so we're going to have to finish off at this point because I'd like to close this off. But we'll definitely pick up on that again in future. And Elena, I'll try and pull together a list of useful guides and things to subscribe to for regular updates. So thank you everyone for joining this week. For those who are watching on YouTube, do subscribe, like, blah, blah, blah. And see you all again next week.
Thanks, everyone.